Without further ado, let us say hello to Arjan Bhullar, the reigning defending one championship heavyweight champion of the world. Give us an update on his situation. There he is, the man himself.
Salut.
Salut,
I'm
Arjan.
back.
You're back. A year ago tomorrow. Did you recognize that?
I did, man. I did. Every day that goes by, I'm in the gym and I'm just looking at that clock tick and the calendar, and I want to be out there, see all these events happening. Absolutely. Every day that goes by, it does not slip.
Okay.
And I do notice.
Okay. So for the casual fan who's watching right now, why have you been out for so long? Can you explain?
Yeah, it's not something that I wanted to do. I want to fight multiple times a year. I had that in my contract when I signed and I came over. I wanted to make sure I have that in my new deal that we were trying to get done, and which we have done now. I like to compete. I like to stay active. And so, before it was okay, the pandemic hit and there were challenges. But I wanted to make sure that's something that I'm able to be busy moving forward. And I've seen you touch on it with the whole Nate Diaz situation and all through the years. Fighters have a certain amount of rights and leeway with this stuff, and it's quite unfortunate. And you're right in every aspect. There isn't much that's really that we can really leverage. Obviously, when you have gold, you have more leverage than you do in any other type of situation. So I was able to secure myself a new deal that I'm pretty happy with moving forward. And like I said, I just want to get busy, man.
Frank? That's our breaking news music. Breaking news to signify that you have officially re-signed with One Championship, yes?
Absolutely. I have re-signed. I've got a new deal, multi-fight, multi-year deal that also allows me to pro wrestle.
Oh.
It's a one-of-a-kind deal. We haven't seen in the sport of MMA. I know we've seen people like Ronda and Kane and them get busy, but that was after. But we've come to terms with one. Absolutely.
Okay, so do you also have a pro wrestling deal to announce?
So we had interest from both WWE and AEW. We had conversations, but we couldn't engage in a formal deal because my contract wouldn't allow it. So so step number one now would be to get my date and my opponent locked in. Obviously, there's an interim title that was introduced as we were sitting out, much like in the UFC with Francis and these guys. I was dealing with the same thing on my end, and we have the same management.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how that played out. So he is Anatoly Malikin. He is Russian. Currently, the Singapore government doesn't allow Russians to come into the country. So that is the next hurdle we have to overcome in terms of location. It has to be outside of Singapore. Once that thing gets booked, or I'll even go in Singapore against any other opponent. It doesn't matter. I want to get going. I want to get in there. That's the next step. And then once that's secure, then we engage pro wrestling and we get a deal done with them.
Do you have a preference? WWE, AEW?
It's crazy, man. And it's been a year since I fought. And in the last year, pro wrestling has turned upside down as well. I mean, over 80 members of talent have been released from the WWE into the open market. They've signed the NIL deal over on their end. AEW's been, Cody Rhodes has gone over, jumped over the other way. They got a thing happening in New Japan.
Yeah.
So a lot of things are moving. But for me, I want the flexibility to be able to compete as well as pro wrestle. That's the main thing for me. I want to do both at the same time. It's never been done. I'd like to do that and stay as busy as possible in both industries. I don't have a preference. You got, obviously Ginger over at WWE. You got Veer that's come through. He's getting a big push over in AEW. They've introduced Satnam Singh. We've known each other for years. He's the NBA baller. And we're very familiar on a personal level. So both sides see the Indian aspect and the push that's wanted and needed. I love what Dan Lambert's doing over at AEW. He's the ultimate heel. I love his stuff. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. It doesn't really matter. Like for me, like I said, I take care of myself first, and that's going to be whoever allows me to fight at the same time.
But what I've often heard from the MMA fighters who then try their hand at pro wrestling is, damn, this is a lot harder than I thought. I remember King Mo said it, Tito said it. You're in your prime. you're the champ. You're not just some guy who's like showing up here and there. Can you conceivably do both and be successful at both?
Well, a couple of things. I am in my prime. These are my best years. That's why I don't want to sit around. I've wanted to be busy. I want to be busy moving forward. But this is also something I want to do full time. And once I'm done competing, like a lot of fighters go into, broadcasting and being at events, and that's not what I want to do. I want to be a pro wrestler. So I'm putting my one foot in there, and I'm going to do this. And it's something I'm setting up for full time beyond once I'm done competing. King Mo's actually he was probably the first guy I hit up. This was years ago, when I was even making a decision to fight. And because he's been involved, with pro wrestling and doing that thing for a while. And I had interest actually with even WWE back then. They had a scout that came out, and we had conversations back then. And I asked him, I'm like, hey, how is this? And he told me exactly what you're saying, that it's actually harder on your body than MMA. That's what he had said for himself. So, I understand that. AEW also doesn't do those house shows that don't come on TV and all that. They're not going 5, 6, 7 days a week like a lot of these WWE guys. Their schedule's a lot more flexible in that regard. Although WWE is allowing more talent to have that flexibility. So it's something I want to do. Before, when I was a kid, Ariel, there was no MMA. It was the belts were on Hogan, on Warrior, on Mach, on all these guys, The Rock, Stone Cold. So it's something that's always been on my radar that I wanted to do whenever I had the chance. It was to get a pro wrestling belt and do that before it was even MMA. The MMA developed as an outlet for my competitive nature and to chase a world title in a competitive atmosphere as I wrestled, as I came up through amateur wrestling. So competitively, that's something that I wanted to chase. But entertainment, fan, legacy, it's just something I'm going to jump into. I want to do. And the only way to find out is to do it. So that's where it's at.
Obviously, you have management, you have representation, you're represented by CA, as you mentioned, same reps as Francis Ngannou. Crazy that you're both the heavyweight champions and you had your, contract issues. How contentious did things get? How difficult did things get? Because even when I spoke to Chatri, they're not going to open the curtain fully, but it did seem like he was a little frustrated with how things went. How were things with you and from your perspective?
Yeah. So shout out CAA Sports. First of all, they get beat up a lot, especially recently with Dana and Francis and the media attention that got. CAA does what their clients want. They work on behalf of their clients. And look, Francis wants to box. Like he said it so many times. Before he ever found an avenue to box, he found MMA and he ended up going that way. But you can't knock the guy to want to chase what he wants and his hopes and dreams. And boxing is his true passion. And it's not from what I understand, he wants to pursue a multi-fight deal type of thing. So, CAA has taken their marching orders or their representation on what Francis wants. And they get beat up for it. But the ones that get beat up are usually the ones doing what their clients want and pushing back to the status quo. Let's be honest. There aren't too many other managers that push like these guys. So they're making huge moves. One of the things that's very interesting with Francis's thing, if I may touch on that a little bit.
Please.
I'm a huge advocate for fighter rights and negotiations and fighter pay and all that stuff. The only reason he's been able to also do this is because of guys like Fitch and Kung Lee and Kyle Kingsbury and Brandon Vera and their case. They've got a sunset clause in the contracts now because of that. It's a new thing.
Tell us what sunset clause is for those that don't know, because you're going real inside here, and I love this stuff. And not enough fans understand this stuff. So you're talking about the class action lawsuit led by the MMA FA guys, Fitch, Kung Lee, Kyle Kingsbury. There are a few others.
AK guys you just named.
That's right. Hey, yeah, that's right. The AK guys. No DC. I mean, I'm just kidding, DC. I love you, DC. I love you, dog. I love you. I love you, DC.
You know what?
But
I'll get to him too, actually.
Okay. No.
Came to me,
yeah.
My end of this, I leaned on him for some decisions here, and I'll get to that in a second. But yeah.
What's the sunset clause? What's the sunset clause that you're talking about?
There's no end date for these contracts.
Yeah.
You can get extended in perpetuity. You've talked about it on your stuff. Same with Nate Diaz right now. He got extended. The guy wants to fight.
Yeah.
He's sitting at home. I can relate with that. Like any fighter, you want to compete, you want to get out there. So, and Francis, he wanted to fight. He's getting benched. He's not getting the push. He's the baddest man on the planet in terms of UFC champ and all that. And he's not getting the push. He was sitting at home and he wanted to get going. So I get that. And you also, one thing he touched on, which I found, people don't know this stuff. The fighters are obligated contractually to follow through on their end, but the promotions aren't obligated on their end. You can't do nothing about that, to be quite honest. But with this class action lawsuit now, Francis is in the best position, in my opinion, because he's got a sunset clause, which is in every contract now, thanks to previous fighters helping fighters, right? Because of that lawsuit. And that helps every fighter that's on the roster now. There's an end date to these contracts. And so because of that, he's got a fixed date where his contract's going to expire. Now, does the UFC fight that and it proves the class action lawsuit correct? Or do they let it go? And Francis is a free man. Like if I'm Francis, this is a perfect position. He can call his own shots. He fought out that Gane fight was very risky. But he did it on his terms. He wanted to fight one more time and get to that end that way. And they've been trying to re-sign him and all that, but I don't see how that's going to play out. Now, when it came to my end, going to my end now, similarly, I wanted a new deal where I'm a champ. I wanted to be a pro wrestler, all that stuff. And, again, leverage, right? Or how can I come to the table? How can we get to this? It got very contentious. I'm gonna admit. It helps. Like I said, I got the best management out there. CAA Sports. Actually, they helped. If you had just seen this morning the breaking news with Chatri and Amazon and all that, CAA actually helped negotiate that deal.
Wow.
So they're also clients. So that's that helps. We're all one team. It was something that, hey, they're going to do what they need for the promotion. We're trying to do what we need for ourselves and the promotion. And we came, with a landmark kind of deal. And I'm very happy with the deal that we've come up with. Like I said, I can fight multiple times a year. No questions asked. I'm going into pro wrestling and do what I have to do there. And that's really, truly what I always wanted, was to stay busy. And that's what Chatri's now allowing it. And I really want to give them props. I want to give CAA props for pushing for their fighters. One props for allowing their fighters to do more and spread their wings and their brand and all that. It wasn't easy. Honestly, it was actually it's mentally very tough. I'm sitting at home and you don't know what's coming next. You're there's no end. Like this can go on for years and forever. And
wow.
You want to get busy and you want to compete. And like you said, prime years of your life. So, but I'm happy we are where we are.
I'm sure, correct me if I'm wrong, that big 1X show, which I thought they did a great job production-wise, it felt like a big deal. The fights were fun. You're probably watching that and feeling a little left out a couple of weeks ago, right?
Oh, man, absolutely. You first Indian world champ, got a big TV deal in India on Star Sports. I felt I should have been out there. Absolutely. I should have been out there even before that. Like, we could continue the momentum.
Yeah.
We just got the title. Let's get going. And the only way you have momentum is, in my opinion, multiple times you got to get out there a year. And then now in between fights, I can continue that momentum with the pro wrestling. So I'm excited to get real busy moving forward.
Okay, so right now you mentioned DC. Like, is he still a mentor? What is he? How big? Because
Okay.
I'm assuming you can't go to AK these days, right? Or maybe now you can finally. Are you in AK right now? You're not in San Jose right now, right?
No, I'm in Vancouver. I want to get this thing booked. I want a date, and then I'll get my camp going. DC will always be a mentor, absolutely.
You're the Canadian Indian DC. You even speak like him, for God's sake.
Easy, man. Easy. I'll take that as a compliment.
It is a compliment. It is a compliment.
Yeah, he's done great things, and absolutely, that is a compliment. But I reached out to him. and I was picking his brain through all this because it gets very mentally draining, and the best way to move forward, and how do you go about this and that type of thing. And I will say another thing. And I want to make sure I cover this the right way. So there was also another opportunity that came towards us through all this, and that was Henry Cejudo wanting to come to ONE on a trade.
Come on.
And absolutely. And because he couldn't get his stuff worked out on his end. And that went to that went high up in the UFC, and that was being explored. And so it was brought to my, hey, what do you think? And that's something I lean on DC for. That's where I bring up the DC name and that type of thing. I got to thinking. And a few things on me personally, I've been a part of DC's training camps all the way through since Jones won. He's been in there with Jones. He's been in there Stipe. He's been in there Black Beast. I'm familiar with Ty. He's come through AK. I've felt him. He's felt me. I know what he brings to the table, and he knows vice versa. Tom Aspinall, we were booked before. He pulled out. We're familiar with each other. These are all sort of the top guys. And I sort of picked his brain on some of that. And it's private conversations, but I liked what he said. And he was giving me some good food for thought. And, then I got to thinking, like, this would be a huge thing, because I know Chatri, and I know ONE, and I know Dana and the UFC, I feel. Askren wasn't a good representation of how ONE athletes can compete. I don't feel that. He was 2 years retired, bad hip, sitting, but you make that deal because you're getting DJ and you're getting, a GOAT, and you make that happen. Chatri's very, very competitive. I know that. And we have great champions. Will that ever happen moving forward? I don't know. Would I ever entertain it? Absolutely. First, my pro wrestling thing would have to be sorted out. On a competitive standpoint, I want to fight the best in the world. I'll pick my guy DC's brain on that competitive aspect. And, if that ever got pulled off again, I think ONE is better than what Askren showed. We can compete at a higher level. DJ came over, he lost. Eddie came over, he lost. Sage came over, he got his face broken. There are killers in ONE. I think Chatri would want to show that still in a better way than Askren did. I can pass USADA. I've done it my whole life. I can compete. We're talking International Fight Week in July for the UFC. It's about time India gets a seat at the table. No one else is going to ever do that.
Wait a second.
Something that works.
Wait a second. Frank, we get that. My head is about to explode here. Frank, we got the music. I mean, what are you saying here, Arjan? What are you saying?
All I'm saying was
there was talks of you versus Henry, a trade. You going from ONE to UFC, Henry going from UFC to ONE. There was talks, rumbling.
This was something that came our way. That was presented. What if and conversations. And as you can see now, Henry's been supposedly back in USADA. Let's see how it goes for him. I've got a deal that I'm happy with.
Wow.
That's a groundbreaking, legendary deal, all of that. One of a kind deal I'm very happy with. I'm talking out loud of what my thought process was. You asked me about DC and all that. That's where I had some conversations in the middle of all of this. And I always have conversations, even on the back end. Hey, this is sort of my deal. And he knows how much I love pro wrestling and all of that.
But didn't you sort of leave like with some hard feel? Like, didn't you feel, the turban, they didn't push you? Like, why would you even consider it?
Why would I consider that? I'm talking to you this was before we got a deal done, number one.
Yeah, okay. All right, fair enough.
Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, I'm telling you what my thought process was.
Yeah.
Could this work? As a competitor, what draws me to it? I always want to fight the best in the world. Whether they come this way, whether we go that, they'll never co-promote with anybody. I do feel that. If they co-promote with ONE, that would be phenomenal. We just signed that Amazon deal. We're in the US. We're in Canada. Big time deal. groundbreaking, breaking news of today. We're going to have a U.S. event.
Yeah.
So we're making moves coming this way. And if that ever happens, awesome. But like I said, when this was presented, this was the thought process and the pattern. I thought Henry would be phenomenal for one, in terms of Mighty Mouse, Adrian Moraes, John Lineker, combat, sports legend. They'll let him box. They'll let him kickbox, grappling if he wants. One allows all of those things. I don't know if he'd be a luchador. I don't know if he wants to do that. But one allows all of those things. They do what's right for the athletes and their brand. And again, for me, before I got this deal done, and now I'm going to move forward with pro wrestling, and we're going to go that route. If I ever went that way, or if that was ever going to be considered and for real, the pro wrestling would be something that would have to factor in for me. Like I said, Kane's done it, Ronda's done it. They did it after.
Yeah.
So that would be something on my end. But as a competitor, man, those names, man, that's something that really I like to compete. Like this Russian I got.
Yeah.
He's a knockout artist. He medaled at Russian Nationals for wrestling. Crazy boxer. He's a very tough test, very tough opponent. But it excites me. That's what I'm looking for. And to be honest with one also, their light heavyweight belt's only 225. It's not that low in terms of weight class. So that's something I've got on my radar beyond this one fight. I want to get 2 belts. You're calling me DC. He had 2 belts, Eric.
He did.
So
yeah.
I intend on making that a serious thought beyond this. These are the things that are swirling in my head moving forward. Very exciting.
This is great. I could see the wheels turning. I could see the fire burning. So when are you going to fight again? Do you have any idea? I know you said the issue with Russia and Singapore. They do shows outside of Singapore as well. I was actually talking to some people at one. So the news that you mentioned, I referenced it at the top of the show, but I'll repeat it since you referenced it a couple times. Signed a 5-year deal with Amazon Prime. One Championship did announced this morning for the U.S. and Canada. If you're already a subscriber, you don't have to pay more now. It's just going to be on 12 events in prime time in the United States, which is massive, in Canada as well. And the plan is, what I was told, maybe you know more, they're hoping by Q1 2023 to actually hold an event here in North America, which I think is massive. They've been talking about this for a long time. So with all that said,
correct.
When do you think you'll return?
Correct. And I think Rich Franklin was kind of heading that in terms of the U.S. and seeing where the interest was in terms of, because the rule set's a little different. You have to run it through the commissions. Mm-hmm. Global rule set is different than we currently run in the States. So I know he was pushing on that stuff. And they are definitely looking at that live event. For me, like I said, I've been competing, man. I want ASAP. Let's go. We've signed a deal. I'd love to announce at the same time I've signed a deal and this is my opponent, there's a date, there's a location. So I can get ready for camp. Got a tough opponent in front of me. Go take care of that. Start the discussions with pro wrestling. And hopefully get that signed and sealed and delivered. So we're right on the back end of a win. We keep that hot. And I can, I'm interested to see how this UFC heavyweight division unfolds and Henry's potential comeback unfolds. Is it real or is it just talk? All of that stuff interests me moving forward.
And if you could look into a crystal ball, when do you think your wrestling career gets going? It's a big deal for you, right? I mean, you fought for this. So it's not just something you fought to have on a contract. You actually want to pursue it. What's your hope?
My hope is as soon as I'm booked, we engage them right away and we get going like a couple of weeks after my first fight. As soon as we fight, we have a date set out for them where I come in and we raise some hell and we let them know that we've arrived and we get going right away.
Well, this is exciting. There's a lot of exciting things.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm loving your stuff through BT Sport with Heyman and all these guys, man. Oh, he cut a good one with you, man.
He did cut. Sometimes you got to let the guy do his thing. He's a magician. I mean, he's an absolute genius. And I don't have the ego. I can let someone get over on me. I'm okay with that. We all win.
Absolutely.
Rising tide lifts all boats. You can't try to outwit someone like that. You got to let him do his thing.
Absolutely. That man is they don't make him like that. I don't see anyone else coming up like that. What he did with ECW and what he's doing now, the whole Brock angle and then the Roman angle, and oh man,
I feel like you like wrestling more than MMA.
Honestly, I'm a big. I'm telling you, I like MMA because my competitive spirit.
Right.
I'm telling you, that's what it is. I don't like the bullshit drama, like the history. I don't like Kobe. I don't like all this. That stuff pisses me off. It's a competitive spirit that drives me for MMA. The day I lose that, where I don't have a goal I'm shooting towards and a bigger competitive thing to shoot for, I'm out. And that's what drives me in that respect. But seeing Paul Heyman with a beard when Brock dropped him, and he's sitting there, oh, what that was class.
Yeah.
What a touch that was. And where do I go from here? And Tribal Chief, and he's phenomenal.
He's the best.
Well, I'm loving what he's doing. I'm loving what Cody's done. I mean, they turned this business upside down. It's the best time to get into wrestling right now. It's like the old 90s, man, with WCW and WWE.
Yeah.
It's the best time for talent to get in. And I'm loving it, man. Either you can't go wrong either side. With him coming to WWE, it shows you, and AEW taking WWE talent, as long as your star shines bright, you can go either way, and it's phenomenal for talent.
Competition is good for everyone. This is actually why I'm so into boxing these days, because there isn't one like NFL and then a bunch of other promotions, sort of like in MMA, let's be honest, there's a big gap between the UFC and everyone else because they have a 30-year head start. And I feel like that gap allows for some complacency. In boxing, you have, Matchroom doing their thing and PBC's doing their thing and and it feels like every week everyone's jockeying for position. In wrestling, obviously WWE has that thing, but let's be honest, AEW has picked up some ground, they've picked up some steam, and now it feels like it raises WWE's game. They're not going after a Cody if Cody's just sort of like toiling in the indies doing his thing. No, they went after him because of what he did in AEW, and now you have other guys coming. So so I hope MMA gets to that point too. And deals like this Amazon deal for one, PFL being on ESPN, that's great. Bellator hopefully getting more of a push from Showtime. This is good for everyone. This is good for you guys. It's good for the fighters.
I agree. It's fighters have to help fighters. The reason Francis is in the position he's at, previous fighters took action and they, inadvertently helped his position. Absolutely. You have to be to help each other to get some type of rights and say. And I don't know if that's Ali Act. I don't know if that's unionization. I don't know if that's, you hear rumblings of the National Labor Relations Board head, the appointee changing. I don't know if that's what it's going to be. But I agree, man. Right now, it's something that will benefit the fighters. Like you're talking Cyborg and Kayla Harrison now. If they can get together and get that thing done, that's a big fight.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people tune in. I think that's a big time fight. You need stuff like that to happen. I think the fans will benefit. I think the promotions would benefit. Athletes would definitely benefit. It improves the product. I mean, look what they're doing. Well, what you're saying in terms of boxing. It's unless you force that hand sort of, or are able to come together and make that happen for yourselves. No one's just going to give it to you.
Right.
They don't have to. They don't have to unless you make them. So, and in terms of like pro wrestling, look, they got Cody Rhodes that booked him in Mania. He went over in Mania.
Yeah.
It's not like they try to bury him and that type of thing, which I was interested to see. So, it improves the product, gets everyone excited. And, I'm hopeful. Look, I'm hopeful for the future of our sport. A deal like mine proves that you're able to make things happen if you work with the right people and there's will on both sides. Chatri sees benefit with pro wrestling, how that will give a good rub to one, and it allows me to fight. And I'm hoping we can find a partner on the other end, be it WWE, AEW, that sees the benefit of the MMA and the one and the Indian market rub into pro wrestling. And that's what it's all about. If we can all get something from the deal and we all go home happy and have a lot of fun, I think that's the best thing that can happen.
Arjan, congratulations, my friend. Well done. Well done to you and the team. I look forward to your return. I look forward to seeing what you do in the world of pro wrestling. Thank you very much for coming on and talking about all of this. Great stuff.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's been a long year. I appreciate you having me on, and I love the content you're pushing out. Once the fight gets booked, I'll let you know, and then we'll have the documentary fight finished up by then too.
That's right.
So I'll keep you posted.
All right. Thank you very much, Arjan. All the best to you, my friend. There he is, Arjan Bhullar, the one championship heavyweight champion.